If you were to ask me what makes a good person, I'd ultimately say it's somebody's morals and principles. But that's a very surface level answer, so I'd expect you to ask me, okay, what makes somebody's principles and morals good? And to that, I'd say, well, what do you do in your day-to-day life? But even then, I don't believe that's enough to solidify if you have good principles and morals, because that's just your day-to-day life. I mean, anybody can have a regular day-to-day life and be an absolute scumbag in private. So what happens if you're put into a situation where somebody hurts somebody that's close to you? Would you react, or would you just wait on the justice system to then deal with it? And that's another thing. Do you believe in the justice system? Do you believe that the justice system needs an upgrade, or something needs to happen about it to where people who do heinous crimes need to be prosecuted and dealt with even worse? And just like that, in 50 seconds I made you think to yourself, and on top of that, I've already sparked a massive debate, as those things that I've covered don't even touch the surface on what we can cover when it comes down to your morals. But don't worry, because I'm going to cover them in this video, as you can tell by the title and thumbnail. I'm going to be going over if heroes should just straight up take out their villain counterparts. So strap in, because I'm going to get real in depth with this video. But if you guys enjoy content like this, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe, as I do post content like this regularly, and to be honest, it's a win-win. You guys show me love and support, and I give it back to you in the form of videos. Whether it's deep discussion videos like this, power scaling, or light-hearted videos, in due time I plan on covering it, so be there when I go there. I feel like I've rambled enough. Why don't I jump straight into the video and find out if heroes should just take out their villains? And now hold your horses. Before we actually delve into the video, I'm going to have to put a disclaimer section here, as this video is going to be different from the videos like it and my regular videos, so I just want to put a few disclaimers here. Now, first disclaimer is that this video is going to be off script for the most part, and I say for the most part because I do have bullet points that I do want to cover, but aside from that, I'm going to be coming up with all of my conclusions on the spot, because I want this to be authentic. I don't know if people that have made this type of video do this, but I'm telling you guys right now that I'm doing that. Second of all, feel free to click off the video, as I do believe this video may get a little bit deep, since I want to make this video as I just said, authentic as possible, meaning I want to be covering some things that people may not want to cover. So that is something that I'm going to put out there right now. And the final rule, well, just kick back, have fun, and hopefully by the end of this video I can give you a new outlook and perspective on this whole entire discussion and debate. And since it is a discussion video, make sure to obviously comment down below what you believe. And with that being said, why don't I segue straight into the video. Now, fiction, there are two sides to this. There are people that believe that over time the person will get better, they can rehabilitate, or they just believe that if they obviously take them out, at that point they're just as bad as them. While on the other side, you have the guys that believe, listen, I have to take them out because they continue to do what they're doing and they're showing no signs of just reforming. I need to get them gone because they're evil, they're just evil, they're corrupting the world, they're just doing terrible things. Inside of comics, the two biggest examples are Batman and the Punisher, and their stories are so driven by those narratives to the point where you can say that's probably one of the most like defining things about their character. Batman's no killing code, and Punisher's, listen, I gotta get the scum of the earth out of it. And the reason these two go down these paths is due to what happened to them, and obviously how death affects somebody. And this is something that I'm going to get into a little bit later, but I'm going to throw in a third person who's actually on the thumbnail. Actually, all the three people that I'm discussing right now are on the thumbnail, and that's Dexter Morgan. Before I talk on Dexter Morgan, I just want to say that I'm only halfway through season 3. I'm at the point where Miguel has actually just X somebody off, and so yeah, I'm at that point, just so you guys know, so you're not spoiling the comment section for me, because if I do see spoilers, I may actually crash out. Like, I'm being genuinely serious here. Now, while death did impact Dexter a lot, I don't believe it's to the exact same way that it impacted Frank and Bruce. Those two came out of their situations because obviously, Bruce, obviously his parents died and whatnot, then obviously he went up and trained himself, became Batman, and obviously he's out there trying to fight all the criminals and whatnot. But then you have Frank, and obviously Frank's family was then killed, and he then became the Punisher because, well, I mean, he needs to take out all the scumbags of the earth. And so in comes Dexter, and the reason I say he's different is because what happened to him after, and how it's not a need to go out there and do it. It's more of a thing where he's like, he was trained by his dad because he had the urges to start Xing people off because of what happened to him, and that's where his is different. He has urges, and they're different from Bruce's, where Bruce is like Bruce and Frank, they're driven because of what happened to them. Their needs to get the bad guys off the streets is more natural since it's driven by what's happened to them, while Dexter, he was trained up by Harry, meaning his one is more artificial, and it's not something that if he was just to leave him, he wouldn't like, he probably would just do it to anybody, but because he's been trained and he's learned right from wrong, and then he's like, okay, maybe I need to do this, that is what he does. But if you left all of them alone, let the exact same scenarios happen to all of them and left them be, Frank and Bruce would still come to the exact same outcome while Dexter wouldn't, and that is something that we're gonna have to address. Now, I don't want to get too spoiler heavy into Dexter, as I don't know if you guys have watched it and I've never covered it on my channel, so I'm just gonna leave it here at this. Dexter basically goes through arcs and stuff, and at the end of, well, where I'm at least, he then starts to realize that he has to do it to protect the people around him, and you can say this is where he kind of lines up with people like Bruce and Frank. But the difference is that they got to that conclusion way earlier than him, because they realized that the world is full of bad people. We need them gone. While Dexter only viewed it as they're bad people that I can literally just take out, because really and truly, who's gonna care? They're bad, so I can just release my urges. While now it feels like it's more of a thing where he's like, I need to get rid of them because I have people to protect, so I need to get rid of all of these bad people. And so it switches over time. Another thing I do want to bring up is how Frank, Bruce, and Dexter don't see themselves as saints. They don't ever feel like they're saints. But there is somebody out there that does feel like they're kind of a saint in what they're doing, and that's Superman from Injustice. Now, I know a lot of people have obviously had debates over it. I've literally seen communities divide over it, because I personally do believe that Injustice is a good game. I do like obviously the storyline and whatnot, but how they depicted a certain character does annoy me. I'm going to get into that in a second. But Superman, how they depicted him was extremely well, and although I don't like that character and how they were depicted inside of Injustice, I will say that if you look at it from a writing standpoint, I mean, it's good in my opinion. And if you haven't caught on by now, it's Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman makes Superman feel like they're saints and like they're doing no wrong, as bad people need to be taken out, and obviously Superman is being manipulated by her into thinking that. And so in the beginning, Superman obviously gets rid of the joke and he's having second thoughts, because that goes completely against his moral code. I mean, yeah, he accidentally killed his wife and whatnot, and things happen, but at the end of the day, he was still like, okay, wait, I made a massive mistake. Like, it hit him. But then Wonder Woman was in his ear, like, nah, continue. Like, it's fine. Like, we're doing no wrong. And that is where I do believe that the rule then needs to be discussed, because at that point, as you get further and further, he then goes on to take out people that shouldn't even be taken out, like Shazam. Why was he taken out? That is when the rule becomes mucky, and it's a thing where it turns into you getting rid of the bad people and you just didn't get rid of the people that don't agree with you. As you can tell, there is a common theme. It's a running theme. It's death. How death impacts somebody and how it can warp your brain is interesting, crazy, but not surprising, as if you really sit and think about it for even a second, of course death is going to warp how you view everything. And especially if somebody's taken away from you by force, you then sit there and question the justice system, and especially if they get away with it. That is when you have to sit there and be like, I need to do something. But what happens is you come to two crossroads. Do you believe that taking them out makes you just as bad as them, or do you believe that taking them out is taking out the bad in the world? And I believe when you get to that point, that is what shapes you. And also, while doing it, do you believe you are a saint, or do you believe that you are just doing what needs to be done? There are two different things that are going on there, and with each path you then have two outlooks that you can have. But then when you start letting these people go, you then have to come to a point where it's like, when am I going to stop letting these guys go? And I know a lot of people are going to look at Batman and whatnot, but I really want to take this to anime and bring up Luffy, as a lot of my channel is centered around One Piece, and I do expect a lot of One Piece people to be tuning in. So I want to talk about Luffy. When will Luffy realize that destroying his enemies' dreams won't end it all? Some of them still just go on to do the exact same thing. I mean, we've seen it multiple times now. When is Luffy gonna realize that some of these guys may just need to go? Crocodile. I mean, Crocodile's come back. I know a lot of people are gonna say he's good. He isn't. He's still doing the exact same things he was doing before. He's just doing it on a scale that's not in our face, and he's obviously just chilling with a Yonko crew. So I mean, yeah, but if you think about it, he's put out bounties on marine soldiers. That's not any better from what he was doing before. Yes, okay, the marines are corrupt in quotation marks, but to the average civilian inside of One Piece, that's not their case. I mean, they're there to protect them. Most of them are there to protect them. So that's something that it's just bad. Like, Luffy let him go and now he's doing that. Okay, another thing, Doflamingo. Why didn't he take out Doflamingo? After he heard everything, why didn't he take him out? And that is where the rule does need to come into play, and that is when your morals really need to be questioned. And I do know that Luffy is a pirate, so he doesn't really care about 99% of the time, but you can see that he's aggravated to a certain point where he's like, okay, I have to deal with it. And so why does he believe those people can come back and make a second chance when they've had their whole entire life to rethink and just come back a different way? And you've obviously heard the stories about these certain people, and in other animes and mangas you have same villains that they just let them live. On further inspection, you actually are able to tell that a lot of anime and mangas don't really discuss the rule, and most of the time they just defeat the enemy, get them out of there, they're gone forever. But some will keep them alive and obviously they'll just come back later. But this is where I'm going to obviously switch back into comics, and this is where the debate obviously gets heated here, because at what point does somebody become irredeemable? Is it when they do it 5 times, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 10 times? When does it stop? And I know a lot of people are going to point to the Joker immediately and be like, okay, but he needs to go. Yeah, I mean, it's a Joker, he needs to go. But I'm talking about like ones that do it on an occasion, or maybe they'll come back again and they'll do it. Like a rogues gallery that I believe half of them should be gone, while other half, I mean, to be honest, some of them can rehabilitate. They've had stories where they rehabilitate and whatnot. There's obviously Spider-Man's rogue gallery. They're not, I mean, to be honest, I haven't read like a proper Spider-Man comic in like over a year, so I may be a little bit mucky on this, but personally, I believe that his rogue gallery, like, you can rehabilitate some of them. Like, some of them are just genuinely like messed up because of their circumstances, obviously they have things that they want to do, but the other half of them, get them gone. But I say all of that to say, when we do discuss the no killing rule, we have to go over these several different things. Like, how do you view yourself when you're doing it? Do you feel like a saint? Do you feel like you're just doing it for the sake of doing it because you have to do it? Or are you going to go on the other side and be like, well, okay, well, if I do obviously get rid of them, I'll turn into a bad person. I can't be as bad as them. But then at the exact same time, you're putting many lives at risk. I mean, we've seen what the Joker can do every single time he's given the opportunity to walk. And this is what makes the debate so obvious in my opinion. And I know for the side of keeping them alive, I haven't really given too much, but when you try to go down that route, everywhere you go, it's like, okay, your morals, you want to keep people alive because you don't want to be as bad as them. Maybe you've been taught that life is sacred and that nobody should be the executioner or God. That's how a lot of people see it when people take lives of criminals and they're like, you shouldn't have done that. And before I end off the video and give you guys the definitive answer, I'm going to go over one more example, and I think it's one of my favorite examples, and that's Deku and Tenko. And honestly, I don't think I'm just going to keep it towards those two. I'm actually going to include Darby, Todoroki, and just all the other people inside of My Hero, as I believe My Hero does give you the biggest sort of like spectrum of how you can view these villains. To start, we have Tenko, and Tenko was brought up in the worst situation, and then to follow up on it, he's then taken in by one of the worst people in the world, in fact the worst person in the world in All For One, and then he's mentored and trained by him into then thinking that everybody's against him and just the heroes are terrible and just hero society as a whole. And I'm not going to say and act like hero society inside of My Hero is great. It's not, and it's actually something that they do focus on, and that's why I love the series so much. When Deku does see Tenko, he comes to a conclusion immediately, and that is where his moral code did come in. When Nana was saying you gotta get rid of him, he was like, nah, that kid needs to be saved. I saw it for myself, and so I believe that Tenko needs to be saved. Now, there's always an argument that Deku would always save people and not take them out, but it's never been stated either or. So that's why I'm led to believe that if it had come down to it, and if Tenko was just really evil from the beginning, he may have just done it. But as we all know, he is the person that will save anybody that does need saving, and Tenko was one of them. And to be honest, I do agree with Midoriya. I would save Tenko as well, but Darby on the other hand, I don't know if I would even try saving Toya. Toya at that point was just pure rage, and someone like that could not be rehabilitated. Even if the world around him forced him to be like that, it doesn't really matter when you get to a certain point, since the only reason he was even alive was through pure hatred. So why would I keep somebody around who's only around to just do bad things? He needs to go as well. Now when you look throughout the league, you can just see that they're all misfits. All of them are doing things because they're misfits, and that is when you then need to question, does the killing rule apply to these guys as well? What type of villains are exempt from the rule, and what type of villains will face that penalty? And this is where I'm going to obviously wrap up the video, as it comes to my answer leading to our conclusion. So the big question, is the killing rule valid? 100%. I believe that you should focus on a certain type of people and you should go for them. Punisher has probably one of the better ones, along with Dexter Morgan, and I don't know if Dexter's does get muckier later on, but I do believe that murderers at the end of the day should just be taken out, point blank period, unless it was by accident and in self-defense. I'm going to peel a layer off of that and go a little bit deeper. What about people who have mental disorders and everything? Do you believe that they can be rehabilitated? Now at a certain point, there's only so many times you can give someone that sort of, okay, I'll give you a little bit of leeway now, go back to prison, okay, you break out again, alright, we may need to deal with you. And I also throw in people that have terrible childhoods or just had terrible upbringings in general, their life just wasn't going their way. I throw them in that boat as well. You guys get a few chances, but once those bodies start piling up and you start doing terrible, heinous things, you gotta go too. People who take advantage of people in a disgusting manner, they can go too. That's why all of my favorite characters across fiction have the exact same aesthetic. I love them when they're heroic, but they take that next step and they don't mind getting rid of the bad guys, and it plays on that. Kuritsugu Emiya is my favorite character ever, and he plays on that extremely well. With him taking on that burden, and then by the end of Fate Zero realizing that it's not enough, that is where we get to see him fully break down and just be like, you know what, if I can just save one person and just do one good thing for one person, then I'll do it. And often that's where these guys' whole heroic shtick can get them. If they don't mind out, they can end up easily like Kuritsugu, and even like Shiro when Shiro decides to go down that path. And this is something that I love about all these things, and I may even make a video just going on about heroism and how it can be portrayed in different ways. If you guys want that video, you know what to do. And I'll be more of a formatted video as well, because I just wanted this to be a discussion. But to end the video off, I just want to say that yes, I do believe that the rule is valid, and I do believe that there are certain people that will fit this, and I think it isn't as mucky as a lot of people like to make it out to be. If you take many lives and we have to keep yours alive when you're only just taking lives, in my opinion, you gotta go. If you're destroying lives in any sort of way to a terrible point, you have to go. That is just how I view it. Sounds very cold and dark, but when you think about it, why would you keep somebody around and just keep sacrificing lives over and over again just because you feel like you don't want to be as bad as them, or because you think they can be rehabilitated after them going into that rehabilitation center or just even to prison for the 90th time? They're not going to change, so you have to make them change. And change from this world, I don't know, you gotta do something. But yeah, with that being said, that's the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I love you guys for all the support. Thank you for 5k. And yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next video. I love you all. Good. Bye.